Hey guys, it's Matt from Keystroke Games, and I'm here to bring you part 2 of our How to Make a Side-Scroller tutorial series. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the slight blurriness of my screen, which I realized is because I have a new monitor, and this monitor is 1900 by 1200 instead of 1080, so there's a slight vertical blur, but you should still be able to see sort of what I'm typing, but my monitor's apparently too HD for YouTube. So let's get started. Today we're going to be adding a weapon to our game, and it's basically 3 simple parts. We got our sprites, we have our pistol, and we have our bullet. So let's start out with the sprites. You're gonna need some sort of weapon that's in scale with your player. So for this tutorial, with my horrible artist skills, I just drew up this quick little energy device that we can have shoot some bullets and stuff. But you guys can obviously create whatever you want. Now, what's important for this is you want to have your Sprites Origin set exactly where you want it to pivot on the player. So in my case, setting it to this center and just kind of like moving it up a little bit. So like 16 maybe. 1614 for me, or 1615, is right about the perfect pivot point for my weapon. But you guys are going to need to customize wherever you want your origin to be. The second thing you need is, you notice how this is weapon right. We need both a weapon right and a weapon left. So I'm going to duplicate my weapon. I'm going to call this weapon underscore left. And now I'm going to edit the sprite, go to transform, and instead of flipping it mirroring it horizontally, which you might think, I actually want to flip it vertically, because when you rotate the sprite around backwards, you actually want it to be upside down, facing the wrong way, which will make it look like it's facing the right way. You may not understand that, just do it because I said so. And that should work pretty well. And the other thing you want to do is you want to make sure that your origin's right on the left one too. So in my case, it would be 1616 instead of 1615 on the right. So now we have our 2 sprites, and now we can create our bullet sprite. So I'm just going to, I didn't really have anything interesting prepared for this tutorial, so I'm just going to make a 4x4 canvas, really small obviously, and I'm just going to color this blue. So we have a blue block we can use as our bullet. So I'm just going to call this bullet. I will obviously replace this with a real sprite later, but I'm just going to center the origin so our bullet rotates around its center, and we are all good to go. So now we're done the sprites. Now it's time to do a few more variable initializations before we start the meat of our project. So in our player, we're going to go back into our step event, which is where we have all our code from the last tutorial. And down at the very bottom, even below the last action equals action, we want to write global.player underscore hspeed equals hspeed, and global.player underscore vspeed equals vspeed. So we're going to be using these 2 variables to compensate for some lag that you might get on your player a little bit later, but that's just what we need to do for now. So now we need to create our pistol object. So I'm going to create it. I'm going to call this pistol, and I'm going to select our pistol right, or it really doesn't matter. Either one of the pistol sprites is our starting. And then I'm going to go into step, and we're going to start our programming. So to start off, what we want to do is we want to say if global.facing underscore right, which if you remember is one of our player variables, is equal to 1, brackets. Then we're going to say x equals player dot x plus 20 plus global dot player underscore hspeed. Now let me explain this line to you. So we're basically right now we're assigning the position of our pistol if the player is facing right. So this 20 right here doesn't actually mean anything specific. You will have to change this value to whatever you want using trial and error to make your player look right. I did a little bit of work beforehand, and this is right about where I wanted my gun at 20. So you're going to have to do a little bit of experimentation. So I'm going to copy this line. And now I'm going to rename the X to Y. And I'm going to make this player... Oops, and I just realized we need to capitalize this player so it's the actual player object, not just a variable called player, because we capitalized our player's name. And we're going to make this, change this to Y, player.Y plus 15. Like I said, these are all variables we'll have to change. And we'll change this to V speed. H speed and V speed are horizontal speed and vertical speed. And back in our player, those two terms we set it to are actually terms built into GameMaker, so you don't really need to worry about calculating that. And lastly, we'll say sprite underscore index equals, I think I call it pistol underscore right, possibly? Or what did I call it? Here, let me check my sprites. I called it weapon underscore right, so weapon underscore right. So now I'm going to put an else, some more brackets, and then I'm going to copy this whole thing right here. And the reason I have one for right and one for left is that the positions are slightly different. This X changes to a 10, and this sprite index obviously changes to weapon underscore left. That's why I made a typo. Yes, I did. Back in sprites, I called it weapon instead. Just make sure that you don't do anything stupid like me. And let's see, that's it for the sprite and position assigning. So now we need to do the actual angle assigning. So we're going to say image underscore angle equals point underscore direction. And then we want to say x, y, mouse underscore x, mouse underscore y. Now this is probably this point direction function is probably going to be the function you ever use the most in GameMaker. It's like the one function you need to know to make anything in GameMaker. So basically, it's x1, y1, x2, y2, and it uses trigonometry to determine an angle between those 2 points, and that is your image angle. So basically, I'm just saying point from where you are now to where the mouse is, and that's pretty self-explanatory. So, oh, and lastly, we're going to be using this a little bit later. I just want to define a global variable, so I'm going to say global.pistol underscore angle equals image underscore angle. So this is all of our code for our pistol for now. So I'm just going to exit out of this, and then I'm going to create another object, and I'm going to call this pistol underscore bullet. And we can apply our wonderful bullet sprite to it. And now I'm going to go into the create event for this one, drag out a new code block, and this is going to be some complicated math. So for those of you who haven't taken trigonometry or algebra 2 and geometry in high school, this might get a little complicated. But just try to follow along with what I'm doing, and I'll try to simplify it and not actually go into the actual math and more just describe what it's doing instead, like I normally do. So first we're going to start out and we're going to say if global dot, oh, I can't type now, oops, if global dot facing underscore right equals 1, brackets, and I said of instead of if global.facing right equals 1, we're going to say y equals the sign, S-I-N, and then parentheses, global dot pistol underscore angle times pi divided by 180. And then we're going to say times is an asterisk, by the way. It's the thing over your 8 on your keyboard. It's used for multiplication and programming. And we want to times that by -5 plus pistol dot y plus global dot player underscore and no, global.player underscore vspeed. So this is the core of what's powering the position of our bullet when it's first created. So what it's doing is it's saying if you're facing right, this is just, we're going to do x in a second, but this is just y. It's going to use a trigonometric function called sine, which it would take me a while to actually explain what it does, but I'm just going to say that you put in your angle and it gives you your y, basically, without explaining it further. So we're putting in our angle, which is global.pistol angle, and we're multiplying it by pi and dividing by 180 because GameMaker works, when a GameMaker does trigonometry, it works in something called radians, and we want to be working in degrees like most people actually understand. So this is just a conversion back to degrees, and then after that we multiply by this -5. Now if you want to, the one thing you need to understand in this is this -5 here, which is the radius. So how do I explain this? Remember when we set our origin on our weapon? The distance between the origin and where you want the bullet to come out is the value of this here. So if I open up my sprite and I zoom in, my origin's probably around here, so if I actually count the pixels, I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it's actually around 14 pixels before where I want the bullet to actually be created. So you just want to do that with your sprite. So in my case, this is going to be -14. And then this you don't really need to understand, or it's already self-explanatory to some people. So now I'm going to copy this whole line. I'm going to say x equals the cosine of blah, 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 blah. Just make sure this becomes a positive 14 instead of a negative or whatever your radius is. And we want to change this to pistol.x and player underscore hspeed. And I think that sums up our... I just realized something that I'm really stupid, and that is that we don't need this global dot whatever on the top because our position's going to be the same no matter what. My bad. So I think we will be good to go. Once we add this line, we're going to say image underscore angle equals global.pistol underscore angle. So that defines, this block right here is going to define the entire position of our bullet. And now I just need to define the movement, which I use a move free block for. The direction is going to be image underscore angle. And doing a lot of experimenting with games of my own, I've discovered that for a bullet in a side-scrolling shooter, a speed of 12 to 14 is ideal. Anything faster than that can get a little glitchy and hard to follow with the human eye, so I just use speed 12. So now we have all the elements of our basic gun together. We just need to create the bullet itself. So in our pistol event, we want to go into we want to go into mouse, global left press. So every time you press the left button, it's going to do this. And what we want to do is we want to create a pistol bullet at wherever. It doesn't matter where you create the bullet because our code will automatically snap it to where it needs to be. And I just realized something, that I put this in the wrong spot. This set direction, speed and motion block in our create event of our bullet, you actually want to move that to the step event. My bad. So now we should just be able to place our pistol object anywhere in our room, and then we'll just run our game. And drumroll please. You can see that our player has our pistol object, or it's not really a pistol, it's more like an energy weapon, and it's well positioned. All our walking animations are still working. It works from side to side. You can see that since we flipped the sprites in the left and right, it looks correct for both sides. Now if we try shooting, you can see that the bullets are correctly positioned and rotated out of the gun. You can just see that there must have been a slight counting error on my part, that the bullets create themselves a little far off from the gun, but we can fix that. So we're going to go into our pistol bullet code, and we're going to change this 14. I'm just going to bring it back to what I had it at originally, which is around 9. I'm not sure why I counted wrong. I guess I need to go back to first grade. So the only other thing we want to change is we want to have our bullet destroy itself. So we'll say collision with, not itself, definitely not that. Collision with floor will destroy itself. And we'll actually probably be redoing this code in the next tutorial. Just this most recent code, not all of this, when I show you how to go to the next step. So let's try running our game one more time. And you'll see that we have our gun, we can walk around, we can jump, we can walk around and blam, 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 blam. It's still a little far out, but I'm sure you guys can figure out how to just lower that number in our code and change your radius. I hope this tutorial was helpful to everyone. Next time, a little sneak preview, I think I'm going to be showing how to add an enemy. A very simple enemy, but still, that will actually make this a game instead of just like a learning experience, I guess. So I guess have a nice time, guys. Like, comment, favorite, all that good stuff that people make you do, and have fun with GameMaker.